That's pretty cool.
Thank you. People end up seeing that a little bit more in the second book in Wolf Pit,
Hmm.
because there's actually points where the character has to choose one or the other form to fight in.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're actually writing in one of Josh's very well known genres. He does a lot of reads a lot of science fiction, fantasy. He knows more about
I
that
love
than I
it.
do.
I
I,
love it.
yeah, I'm I like a lot of I like a lot of horror and dark fantasy stuff. I like the
Mhm.
sword and sorcery stuff. I like the
Yes.
epic fantasy. I'm just kind of on all over the place in that, and it just but I do like a lot of action in the story. It's a lot of battles, and that's the kind of stuff I'm into. You know.
Definitely. I love that kind of stuff too,
Yeah.
especially something that's going to engage me and keep my attention.
Right.
Um, I will say that for Purple Door District, it has, except for the first chapter, it has a slightly slower build only because you have to get to know the world and the characters, but then you get slapped with all the action and crazy things happen.
Well, like
Um,
I have no problem with like slow build-ups and everything because they always it's always rewarding for the reader, if you stick with it. And you
yes.
get the backstory and everything, and it's very interesting to out the history of all these different worlds and everything, and what just what goes into it.
And the way that the Purple Door District is written, so I'm very much a character driven writer. Like
Uh,
obviously, plot is extremely important, but I focus very much on get helping the readers get to know the characters. So the way the book is set up is that each chapter is generally in a different character's viewpoint.
mhm.
So it starts out with Bianca, then it might move to Carlos, then it moves to, another member of the community. The story progresses. It keeps going, but it goes to different characters, so you can kind of see their viewpoints of what's going on and how it relates to their lives. So you get a deeper feel and connection to all these different characters as you go through it.
Now, let me ask you a question, and I've asked almost all the authors that have been on here this question. Okay, do your
Yeah.
characters, when you create them and you start writing them and everything, do they seem to take on a life of their own and start saying, "Okay, this is how the story really goes. You may think it goes this way, but it actually goes this way, and I'm taking the helm here, and you're just going along for the ride."
So, funny story with that. I think this will help explain it. When I was writing a trilogy, I had a character that I killed in the second book. It was kind of a throwaway random character.
Hmm.
Well, one night as I'm writing, she decided to pop up and go, "No, I'm actually your main character is one of her best friends. So you need to put me in and rewrite part of your first book and into the second book." And I was like, "Well, okay then." So she breathes life into herself. I call myself a plantster because I will plot, and then my characters will turn me into a pantser. They will run and do what they want to do, and I'm just hoping that I can keep them within the plot.
Yeah, I kind of know about characters taking life of their own too. Um, I don't write science fiction fantasy. I'm more of a poetry writer, but I did write a story. I'm still working on the second one. Because it's called Only If, but each chapter's written like a poem, which I
Hmm.
call cantos. And, it was about a
Oh, I
guy.
love that.
Yeah. And it was about a guy, who is framed for killing his wife. Well, I made her to be out like this complete angel in the first book, as the guy was describing his wife, and then as I was writing the second one, she did some stuff that I wasn't quite proud of, and I didn't know was going to happen, but it just sort of happened. So then I got really mad, and I kind of quit writing the book for a while. And I still need to finish it. I need to get it done because I wanted to have 3 or 4 books, and then I got busy doing some other things. Of course, Treehouse Press is working on anthologies and doing all kinds of
Yep.
stuff, and I will get back to Only Of Me. I'm not so mad now, but I was very mad because she did something I didn't like. And, like, I didn't know it was going to happen. So it's just like,
Yeah.
well, thanks.
I can completely understand getting into fights with your characters. It happens.
Yeah, I know. But if you, like, tell people who aren't writers or authors, they don't quite understand. And they just look at you like, what?
Right.
And they probably say, think you need to be committed.
Yeah, I know. They're like, do you have voices in your head? Well, the characters are talking. Or are those, like, characters because you're, like, schizophrenic, multiple personality disorder? Like, no, it's the people that we write about.
Exactly. I will have fights with them now and again, and I will actually, if I'm stuck on a character, I'll sometimes actually do character interviews with them where I'll just, randomly ask them questions, type in questions on a Word document, and just answer with whatever they say, and see where that goes. That's how I've developed characters before. They've become very interesting and fun, and also like, whoa, I didn't know you went through all that.
Very interesting. Now, as I was, like, looking at your book, I'm going to go into a marketing aspect here. For you just being published in December, okay, now, I've been writing... It feels like my whole life. Been writing since I was 9, and I started publishing in early 2000. But your first book, I mean, I know that some people like, oh, that's not very many reviews, but you have 19 reviews on Amazon. Okay, like, I'm lucky if I can get 1 or 2 people to review my freaking work. And I know poetry isn't a popular thing, but I'm just like, okay, she was published in December. How did she do that? Not to mention, is this your first book that you've had, like, published in the public?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the first.
Okay,
very
that's
first
what I
book.
was thinking. Because, like, okay, this is her first book, I think. Okay, I've been writing for years. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, no offense. I'm just like, well, how did she do it? And and Brian K. Morris, our mutual friend of ours, he's always saying how you need to get reviews, because that's how you sell books on Amazon. And,
Exactly.
you got to have reviews. And I think that's why now, because I can't seem to get reviews, I'm trying to take my poetry elsewhere by doing mini poetry podcasts. I'm trying to get, we started a press. I'm going to get my name out that way, because I can't seem to get too many people to review my book. So do you have a secret? Do you have hopefully just a lot of support? Or how can an author, especially new like you or any author, go about getting reviews? Do you have good advice?
Well, I have a couple things. So one is, while I was still editing and working on the book, I started working on my audience and building my community.
Mm-hmm.
So this was both doing things like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Those are I would say, are my 3 main platforms that I work off of all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to get to know other authors. I was joining some Twitter events. I was doing some giveaways as well for like bookmark. Like I started giving away bookmarks and character stickers pretty early on before the book was even published, just to try to get the word out there. And I noticed that a lot of my reviewers that have popped up are ones that, or a few of them, are ones that they actually won my book in a giveaway. So I did a Facebook takeover event once, or a couple times, and whoever won, I signed a copy and I shipped it off to them, and they would send me pictures when they would get the book, and I started seeing reviews pop up.
Wow.
I started to learn to ask for reviews as well. So if I knew somebody was going to buy the book, I'd say, I really hope you enjoy it. If you have a moment, please consider leaving a review. This really helps authors, etc.
I would ask people too, and still nothing.
It's hard because I don't think a lot of people realize how important reviews can be. And it's not, they don't have to write like paragraph upon paragraph of reviews. All they have to do is click the star and even just write a sentence to say, hey, this was a fun book, or, I think this book could use some improvements. Whatever. It all helps. And once you start getting people to understand that, I think they are more willing to possibly leave reviews. I try to stay involved with the literary community and try to just be a genuine, honest person as much as I can be. And sometimes Brian K. Morris, he has the ideology of rising tide. So if we all work together, we all rise together. Mm-hmm. So I try to do a lot for other people, a lot for other authors. So I do author interviews on my website every Friday. I'll write topics that people are interested in, like they actually ask for different topics on my blog. And it seems to start working out that way. I've just basically been trying to create as much of an online presence as possible, and I'm working on getting into the getting out there to go to conventions and things like that, to have a physical presence. So it's honestly just interact with your audience. You don't have to have a gigantic audience to get a lot of reviews. You just have to communicate and connect with people, I guess is
I've been trying to do that for years. I even started my own little fan group on Facebook. It's a small group. There's people there, and I don't have like people that buy a lot of my books online. My problem is I give a lot of mine away. I do sell them at, and I do sell some at conventions occasionally, but I don't know. It's like the poetry is just different. But I always felt like mine was a little different because mine, I don't rhyme. I don't have any rules. Sometimes they rhyme, but like some of them tell stories and some of them are inspirational. So I always felt like mine were a little different than your regular poetry. And I was trying to be really different. And, and I have friends or family who's read it, but then like they'll say, oh yeah, I'll leave you a review. And they never do. I've even given away free books. No review.
Those ones you just have to keep poking at. And just be like, hey, this helps, right? Please.
Yeah, and I do, but I just kind of get tired of bugging them after a while. I kept doing it and I'd still get nothing. But I mean, I really do congratulate you for getting that many for just being published and, you building your audience beforehand. I mean, maybe I'm just trying to, I think where I'm going to do more now is focus more on, I'm still writing, but the performance aspect of poetry from now on, because I seem to be doing better. Anchor, start doing that towards the end of March. I know this may not seem like a lot to some people, but here it is, June. I started doing it at the end of March, and I'm over 600 listens now. And
that's amazing.
Yeah,
and that's really cool.
Yeah, and I've got people not just in the United States, but like all over the country listening. And and all over other countries like Canada, UK, India. Those are some of the top ones. I mean, United States is like 60-some%, and then the rest of them are in other countries.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, like, I think that might be where my audience is. I can maybe build from that instead, and then I can mention my books.
That's the thing is that. Depending on what you write, like what works for me may not work for somebody else. What works for somebody else may not work for me. I try a lot of different things. I try and then I let go of stuff that doesn't seem to be working, and then I try something else. Like Tumblr and Reddit, for some reason, I just can't do.
Yeah, I don't do those two either.
But the other stuff I can, and honestly, I'd be happy to brainstorm with you outside of the recording if you want, just to give ideas and share ideas.
Yeah, that would be cool. Okay, I was trying to think if there was something else. I didn't really, probably should have looked more. Are you self-published or did you publish with a company?
I am self-published right now. I am actually actively querying a YA fantasy dragon story, which I did have a small press accept it, but I decided not to go with them. Just creative differences, I think.
Oh yeah, I totally understand.
But I'm actually doing Pit Mad on Thursday, which you can pitch your story on Twitter, and agents and editors will be looking and might be interested in actually looking at your piece.
Yeah.
But I've been actively querying that for a few months now, and haven't gotten a lot of bites yet, but I would like to be a hybrid where like the Purple Door District stuff is self-published, while like my YA fantasy dragon story and the medieval fantasy stuff that I write, I'd like that to be traditionally published. I kind of want to have a foot in both doors.
Sure.
The reason why A. Keller and I decided that we wanted to do self-publishing with Fates and Furies and Purple Door District is because we wanted to have more freedom with what we did with the stories. And we had ideas for marketing. We had ideas for how the books were going to be constructed, and we just didn't want the stress of working with the publishing company on that.